cameras off and mute yourself as well, just so it doesn't interfere with anything that's going on. Brilliant. Thank you. I'll start
No,
whenever you're ready. Thank you.
no problem. Hello, everybody. It's so amazing to be on here. I can't actually see you because all I can see is my presentation, but I'm going to assume you're all there. You're all following along with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, a little bit about my journey into aviation, a little bit about what I do. I'm going to talk about what an engineer does. I'm going to go back to basics because, to be honest, when I was 18 and I was looking at my options, I didn't really understand what engineering was. And then going to talk a little bit about routes into aviation. And yeah, there's going to be some time for questions as well. So feel free to start thinking of them. Start putting questions in the chat. I'm going to talk for probably about 25 minutes, but I'm really I'm really interested in hearing your questions, see if there's anything that I can help with in particular. Okay, so like my screen says, my name is Alice Goodwin. I'm a 2024 to 2025 aviation ambassador, and I'm also an engineer at Asset Manager and an engineer at Virgin Atlantic. And actually, I've recently moved into this new job in aircraft asset management, which is why the title says avionics engineer, but my background's in avionics. So a little bit what that means. As an avionics engineer in my old job, I was responsible for the safety, efficiency, and the reliability of avionic components. And avionics are anything electronic on the aircraft. And yeah, I was in the back office engineering team at Virgin looking after an aircraft called the A350, if anyone's heard of that one. In my new role at the moment, so I've recently moved jobs a couple of months ago, and now I'm in that aircraft asset management team. So I work with Virgin Atlantic as part of a wider team that's responsible for delivering aircraft and returning aircraft. So a really interesting job. But yeah, I will tell you a little bit about my journey, how I got there in a bit. But first of all, before I dive into the world of aviation engineering, because today is all about engineering and civil aviation, I'm going to first talk a little bit about my brother. And you might be able to see my brother just on your screens. He's this kind of little yellow or little guy in a yellow top here. Yeah, and that's my brother Joe. I filmed this probably about 12 years ago as well. So I'm going to apologize. This was on my flip phone at the time and the quality is really awful. But I always like to share this story because it's about a race. And when I was watching Joe, my brother, in this race, it was at quite a critical point in my aviation career. I was 16, so probably a similar age to some of you out who are listening today, and I was considering what my options would be. So I'll set a bit of a scene, and this race took place at Joe's school sports day. And I don't know about you all, but in Joe's school sports day, the pinnacle event, the highlight of the school sports day was the 800 meters race. They had the sack race, the egg and spoon, all of these traditional subjects, but actually the ultimate race was the 800-meter race. And my brother Joe really wanted to take part in this race. He was so keen to. And my brother Joe, he has autism. Actually, both my brothers have autism. And they went to a specialist school. One of them went to a specialist school, a unit within a wider school. And the school said he couldn't run this 800 meters race. And he was so sad about it. He really was keen. And I never saw him more determined than in that moment. Every day after school, he'd come back to me and be like, Alice, like I wanna do this. So we'd go down to our local park and he'd run laps around the field. I'd sometimes join in, sometimes I'd sit back and watch him. But he really put his heart and soul into it, and I'd never seen him more determined. The school saw this, they saw how much effort he was putting in and realized, you know what? He's been practicing, he can do this. And I just want you to see his finish. So, judging by that reaction, where do people think he came? I still remember showing this to some people that I was talking to, and they were like, with that reaction, he's definitely come in the top three, first, maybe second. Joe actually came last, and he got lapped. But as you can see from this video, he did not care one bit. Joe was just so happy to finish. And like I said, I was 16 at the time, maybe a little bit younger. And I was just starting to think about my aviation career. And I took some key takeaways here, because you will know, I'm sure people in the room have different ambitions. Some of you will want to be pilots, some of you want to be engineers, some of you want to be RAF, some of you might want to go into civil. You'll all have these different wide ambitions. But what I learned was which was most important from Joe, was actually whatever your career looks like and whatever your path is, it is your own journey. Your career is individual to you. So that's the first thing I learned. It's not a race, it's individual to you. And secondly, first I learned success is personal and specific to you. The second thing I learned, which I just gave away, is your careers are not a race. Actually, each of you will take your own path, and people will go different routes to get that. For me personally, and I'll tell you about my story a little bit later, but I grew up as a young carer. My first job was working as a disability support worker. And although that might not have been the typical route, I actually built skills in that, which allowed me to really get good at communicating, give me great teamwork skills that later I could bring into my career in aviation. I always talk a lot about squiggly careers, and that is the idea that your careers don't go step by step like this. So you might not necessarily go to school and then immediately go to college or join an apprenticeship and then go to university and then a graduate scheme or whatever your route might take. A lot of the time, careers kind of dot around a little bit, and actually there'll be one setback in one route, and then you'll find an alternative path and go a different route. So really, I like to think of it's not a race. You need to take it at your own time and your own skills. Yeah. And thirdly, kind of linking to what I was saying about squiggly.
I think you've muted Alice. Not sure how that's happened.
Hello, can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you now. It's only
okay.
like the last maybe minute or 2 minutes.
Oh no. Okay, did you hear me talking about,
yes,
you saw the video, right?
Squiggly careers, we heard you.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. All right, cool. Okay, let me go back, and I'm sorry if you've all heard this before. All right, so the first kind of tip I took away was actually success is individual to everyone. So coming first in the race might be some of your goal, but actually just finishing the race might be others, and your goals are so specific to you. The second thing I spoke about was taking it at your own speed, and that kind of led me to talk a little bit about the squiggly careers, so the alternative paths and the different experiences which build to who you are, which kind of led to my third thing, and that is your strength. The differences and the different skills and the different experiences you bring are unique to you, but it's also how you solve problems differently. So I'm an engineer. I creatively problem solve every day. That's my thing. And I mentioned that I was a young carer and also a disability support worker, and the skills that I got through those paths actually ultimately helped me become a better engineer, because I was able to solve problems in new ways. So moving on to actually what we're going to talk about today, and that's aviation engineering. So engineering in a civil aviation setting, so Virgin Atlantic, British Airways, EasyJet, that kind of engineering. But I first of all wanted to strip it right back and think, what actually is engineering? So I looked in the dictionary and I came up with this definition, and that's the activity of applying scientific knowledge to the design, building, and control of machines, roads, bridges, and electrical equipment. That's all good, but I like to think of it more simply as science is about discovering, engineering is about applying. So in school, you learn all this incredible theory, you learn the maths, you learn the physics. As engineers, we take that theory and we apply it to real life situations. We make something work fundamentally, and then we make something work better. So engineering is all things or everything around you. Someone like your phone, your mode of transport, how you're watching this today, whether it's a laptop or a mobile phone, whatever it is. Somebody has come up with a design or an idea, and someone has built it. Engineers take it from an idea to it being an actual physical reality. So I'm going to break this slide down because there is a lot happening on it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about aerospace engineering in general, some of the different roles in aerospace engineering, and then really highlight the aircraft life cycle, the life cycle of a civil aircraft, and really put into context where engineers like myself who work for airlines fall into that puzzle. So on the left, I've got this excerpt from a textbook that I had when I was in university. I was learning all about aircraft design, and the lecturer brought up this information, and from it, we learn all about the different types of aerospace engineering roles. So if you were designing an aircraft, you would have people in each of these different specialisms. You'd have an aerodynamicist, a structures engineer, a noise engineer, propulsion engineer, manufacturing, weights, all of these different aspects. And they all come together to form this end product. So the aerodynamicist, if they were designing the aircraft, they would want it to be as sleek as possible, maybe like a flying wing or a Concorde. The structures engineers would want it so robust, they'd want to ensure that it's actually structurally sound. The noise engineers would want it to be as quiet as possible. So maybe something like this, like a glider we've got here, which has got absolutely no engines, a high aspect ratio so it can generate lift. The propulsion engineer would want loads of engines, as much propulsive power as possible. The manufacturing engineer would want it kind of simply built. And it's something that's quite important is when you're building an aircraft, you've got to consider also how it might need to be inspected or tested in the future. The weights engineer has not got a lot on there. It's a hang glider, no engines, nothing, but as light as possible. And the flight controls engineer, which is kind of where I used to work, which is avionics and systems, as just filled the plane with supercomputers. But that might not make sense from like a weight and balance point of view. So all these teams need to come together to come up with this end product, which in this case is a 747. Something that's really important to consider is the payloads and marketing. And up here, we've got this kind of aircraft, which has got a piano in the front and a sauna and jacuzzi, which would be really nice if we got on planes and they had all these things. But actually, that might not be practical from a weights point of view. So it's a trade-off with all the different departments. And the aircraft follows like a life cycle. So once all of these departments have come up with a design, we move on to this right section. So you've got engineers working in each of these jobs, and they all come up with a design of the aircraft. After the design of the aircraft goes through testing and certification. So we've got to ensure that all those components work well together. And this kind of process can take different amounts of time, depending on, whether it's a completely new type or whether it's an existing type and they're just putting new engines on, for example. Once it's gone through that testing and certification phase, it's into production. And in production, the whole aircraft's being manufactured. This is different for different airlines. I don't know if any of you have seen the Beluga, which is an Airbus aircraft, and that kind of transports different components all to a final assembly line. And then once an aircraft has been produced and it's given to a specific airline, it goes into operation and maintenance. And that's really where we work. We work in operation and maintenance. And our role as engineers in an airline is to ensure that that aircraft remains airworthy. We're all about the continued airworthiness management of aircraft. So we'll have that in different jobs, and I'll talk about that a little bit. So aircraft operation and maintenance, once it's flown for a bit, the aircraft might be redelivered and it might go to another operator and fly for a new operator. And then eventually, when the aircraft's been all the way through, it will eventually be recycled and all of its components will be used for future or for other aircraft. So Splitting engineering roles, which is really hard to do, but just if we were going to split it into two, you've got the engineering side and you've got the maintenance and manufacturing side. So the engineering side is mostly office-based. It's creating solutions to fix aircraft. It's an engineering degree route. You've got the maintenance and manufacturing side, which is mostly hands-on, fixing aircraft using tools, an apprenticeship route, and a licensed engineer route. So I personally went down the graduate route. So I became an office-based engineer, and I'll tell you about my story in a little bit. But I was a back office engineer, mostly working at a desk. If you decide to go down the other route, which is the maintenance and manufacturing route, that's the best route if you want to be hands-on on the aircraft. And it's such an amazing route. In civil aviation, we've got engineers who are licensed. So basically, they are required to hold engineering license, and to work on a plane and to be able to sign it off, you need an aircraft license. So there's different categories of that. There's an A license, which allows you to basically sign off your work and limited tasks. And then you can move through the process to get a B license. And the B license is split into B1 and B2. So B1 being airframe, B2 being avionics. But as a B licensed engineer, you're able to sign off your own work and also others. Cool. Okay, so talking a little bit about my journey, and I was actually an air cadet as well when I was 17, so I was a slightly older air cadet. But to be honest, when I was your age, 15, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I knew that I liked solving problems. I knew I liked the idea of driving change, but I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. And I decided that, you know what, I want to try and find out more. So I went to my school careers fair, and I was determined to walk in and go out and find a career. And at my school's career fair, I came across a pilot, and the pilot told me about their career in aviation. They were just so passionate about it. I knew that I wanted to find out more. And I kind of made it my mission from that point to start getting that first foot through the door in aviation. So I joined Air Cadets. I bought secondhand pilot manuals on eBay. I started going gliding, which is flying without engines. If any of you have ever been, it's amazing. And I did all these different things to start trying to build up my experience in aviation and get that first foot through the door. I actually started wanting to be a pilot. So I was really keen. I was applying for pilot scholarships, and it all paid off when I was 17 and I got a scholarship to do my private pilot's license. It was amazing, really exciting. I learned how to fly. It was, really, really interesting. It was so great. But I started to have a shift then. Despite me loving flying, and there's a quote by Leonardo da Vinci, which is, "For once you have tasted flight, you shall forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skywards, for there you've been and there you long to return." And despite me absolutely loving flying, I actually found myself quite interested with how things work. And as an engineer, as someone who had just seen aviation, I didn't really know anyone who was an engineer. I only had been on a plane a couple of times. I probably at this point, having done my license, I would flown on myself way more times than I've been on an airline. And I started to have this kind of mentality shift. And it was, I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning why I'm flying. How is this possible? How does an aircraft that's a light aircraft get in the air? How does the aircraft which I work on today fly? I was so interested and driven by that how and why question. That's why I decided to go into engineering. I said right at the beginning of this presentation, I didn't really know what an engineer was. At age 18, I knew that engineers like to they worked on technical stuff. Perhaps they were problem solvers, but I didn't really know what it was. But I was determined to become an engineer in aviation, and I decided to go study aerospace engineering at university. So I studied aerospace engineering. I went to Swansea, but like I said, things are squiggly, right? So when I always forget this part, but it's really important that I mention it. I remember after finishing my PPL, so I was entering upper sixth now, and before starting university, I had applied to universities. I got into 3 that were my top choices. My heart was set on it. But when A levels came round, it didn't go as planned, and I got rejected from all my universities. And I ended up going through the clearing process. Through the clearing process, I got into Swansea, so I was really fortunate, and that was really good. And I started studying at Swansea University. I got into my 2nd year of university, and I was thinking, you know what, I need to get some work experience. So I started having a think about what could I do? What are my options? And how can I get this first foot through in the industry? And I was able to draw on some connections that I had earlier on when I started doing my pilot scholarship. So in the top right is my first mentor, Kat, who was a pilot at Virgin, and that's me actually, age 16 in the top right. And she became my first mentor and was able to tell me about an opportunity at Virgin and to do an internship. So I was meant to do a summer placement. I walked into the interview and I realized, you know what, this is where I want to work. Career got a bit squiggly again, and I took a year out of university and I started working at Virgin Atlantic in their flight operations engineering department. It's a great job. I was a job in between like the pilots and the engineers, like a job in the middle. And it was, really, really amazing. I got to the end of the year and I decided I still want to work at Virgin, but I need to go finish my degree. So I stayed on at Virgin. I stayed on working kind of on weekends and evenings, which was really good. I was able to be really flexible, and I finished my degree. And then at the end of my degree, I was thinking, you know, what next? Am I going to the flight deck? Am I going to be an engineer? Am I going to stay in flight ops? And I chose the engineering route. Things got squiggly because, believe it or not, I was applying like everyone to various graduate schemes. I got rejected by so many different companies, but fortunately I got a place on the Virgin Atlantic graduate scheme. I rotated around for a couple of years trying the different back office teams. So I did like avionics, mechanical systems, I did a bit of propulsion, a bit of structures, moved around all of these different teams, and eventually decided, you know what, I want to do avionics. And it kind of makes sense to me because avionics is the job where you work most closely with the pilots. You work really closely with flight ops, so it made sense. And I worked for a few years in avionics. I was specialist on the A350, which was such a cool aircraft to work with on an avionics because it's one of the most modern aircraft. Really cool aircraft to work on. And then, ultimately, until that, I was doing that up until a few months ago, and I decided to move into asset management, like I said, which I'm still in the engineering team. I'm a project engineer, and basically I run projects to do with aircraft transitions. So new aircraft coming into Virgin and old aircraft leaving. So some future challenges, and this is why I really want to kind of talk to you all here. I'm an aviation ambassador. I should have said that right at the start. It was on my bio, but I completely forgot. I'm an aviation ambassador, which means I'm alongside 9 other incredible aviation professionals. And our role as aviation professionals, as aviation ambassadors, are we basically go into industry and we talk to young people or anyone really who wants to come and join our sector. We try and promote and encourage different roles, whether that be an engineer, whether that be a pilot, whether that be in sustainability. And we all kind of have this united goal and reason for doing it. And that's because there's an aviation skills shortage happening. In the future, when you look at kind of the ages of people who work in our sector, there's going to be a huge gap. And we really need more people to come and join our sector. I'm talking to a room of people who are already passionate about aviation and passionate about aircraft, which is really cool. But what I wanted to highlight is there are challenges that our sector is going to face. We need to be able to become more sustainable. There's airspace modernization limitations as people fly more and more. The future of airport infrastructure, future technologies too. And you are all the people who are going to come in and solve it. It's like I was saying earlier, you've all got different perspectives, different backgrounds, different careers, different experiences, and how you bring that into the workplace is really, really important. And it's really, really important that you do bring your unique skills and your abilities. So there's a lot of opportunities coming in aviation. And if you're someone who thinks creatively, who likes problem solving, who kind of likes to drive change in their own way, then you know what, aviation engineering might be something for you. And something that I always like to say was own your uniqueness, engineer the change. So coming back to that thing, be the best advice I can ask anyone going for interviews is to be yourself, but also to lean in the fact that the different skills and experiences that you have really just drives who you are, and it will be ultimately a good thing when it comes to engineering and aviation. So I can't see if anyone's put any questions in, but I'll stop sharing and I will go back to my screen and see if anyone said anything. Oh, there's loads of questions. Okay, so the first question is, can you tell me what subjects you need, because that is what I want to go and do when I leave school. So thank you for that. So yeah, if you wanted to go study engineering at university, I would first of all recommend like look at the unis that you want to go to and see what they require. And for me, that was basically that was physics, maths, maybe another science. I made the mistake of trying to choose the most complicated sounding ones, but actually missed off some of the ones that I enjoyed. So yeah, I would say physics, maths is kind of a need a lot of the time for aerospace engineering degrees, but also make sure you put ones in there which you're good at and ones that you would really enjoy, because that's really important. What degrees do you need for engineering? So Finley, that kind of really depends. So to be like in an airline, we take people with aerospace engineers, we take people with mechanical engineers. Each kind of grad scheme's a little bit different. There are some more general engineering courses where you you specialize later. If you wanted to work on a specific component on the aircraft, like say you were really into like electronics, there's that kind of route. But if you want to if you want to work in kind of an airline, typically as a graduate and go through the graduate route, typically people do like aerospace or mechanical. Xander, what squadron did you go to? This is so bad. I don't know. I actually don't remember. I need to look it up afterwards. That's really bad for me. Are there any work experience or additional requirements other than grades to get you in your career branch? Yeah, really, really good question. And I'd say keep checking out on the careers pages, not just a Virgin, but any kind of organization you want to work in. For me, like people always ask this, but I say just keep focusing on anything in the field that you want to work on. So if you want to work in aviation, go to your air cadets. That's amazing. That's something on your CV. Kind of also see what other opportunities. There's a lot of virtual work experiences as well. As an aviation ambassador as well, we've linked with the UKCA STEM team, and they've got an amazing platform where they cover loads of civil aviation jobs. So have a look there. And they also offer virtual work experience. Start just reading, getting the interest. I know it's daunting going to networking events as well, but just try and put yourself out there as much as possible. That's really the key. A levels do you need, or T levels? Because I did a graduate route to get into this route, but that's definitely not the one size fits all. I'd also say like consider different routes as well. Like apprenticeships are absolutely amazing. And to work in an aviation organization, an airline, apprenticeships are really well recognized. If you want to work hands-on on an aircraft, my advice is always do an apprenticeship. That's definitely the best route. Okay. What's the pay like? Always get asked this question. It's good. Like a lot, aviation, it's an amazing industry to work in. Like it's a really good kind of place. I think typically, like I just say, like a kind of as a range in most airlines, not just necessarily Virgin. It kind of you start above average, and apprenticeships are really good as well because you get to like paid while you study. Uh, what is the worst part of the career? Good question as well. I like to reframe like the bad bits as challenges because it can be really challenging. In a good way, you're solving problems, you're working as a team. Um, but yeah, also as well for me, like sometimes I've got to write a lot of reports and a lot of emails. So it's not necessarily that bad, but for me, I'm like, okay, I like to sometimes just like keep progressing with things. Uh, is it better to do an apprenticeship or go to university? Another really great question. And I always say it depends on the route that you want to do. So if you want to, if you want to like go and be hands on an aircraft, I would say do an apprenticeship. If you want to be like back office, maybe do the university. One is not better than the other, but really it's just looking at the kind of roles that you want to do and do they offer apprenticeships. I think if like going back, I wish I knew how great apprenticeships were because you are literally learning to do the job whilst you gain qualifications. So that's really amazing. What is the highlight of your job? Really great question. For me, it is working in the most amazing team. I get to work with some really, really incredible engineers every single day, and yeah, that's absolutely amazing. If I wanted to become an aerospace engineer, would you recommend doing a university course or an A1, A2 course not through uni? It really depends on the kind of engineer that you want. So if you want to be like an aerospace engineer, like design engineer, back office, I'd say go to a uni course. If you want to go through your aircraft licenses, so in like an A licensed engineer or then eventually a B licensed engineer, I would say go for an apprenticeship because to do your A license and B license, you really need practical skills. And to get practical skills, you need to be working on aircraft. And yeah, if you work for an organization like BA or Virgin who offer apprenticeships, you're really getting that hands-on experience immediately. What are the advantages and disadvantages? So I spoke about that a little bit. Advantages of being an engineer is I guess it depends on the role, but you get to problem solve, you get to work with aircraft, no 2 days are the same. You get theory as well as practical. I might be biased. I'm really struggling to think of disadvantages. I tend to be 9 to 5, which is kind of works for my lifestyle. Some people are days and night shifts, and that might be a disadvantage for some people, but it really depends on the role. Could you do a level 3 equivalent instead of A levels? Great question. So it really depends on the university that you're looking for. So I would really urge anyone who's thinking about going to university, log on to the university, log on to your university site and just find out what they require. Do they require you to have A levels in specific subjects, or do they take the points from like a level 3 in engineering? So it really depends on the uni. I know some some unis take level 3, some other ones need specific A levels in maths or physics. So yeah, really kind of work backwards. Even if you want to look ahead, look at the kind of grad schemes you want to go to. What do they require? Okay, that's the kind of degree I need to do. Now, what kind of degree does that require? What kind of qualifications? How many years of extra education did you have to complete? Yeah, so I finished my A levels at 18. I went to university. I did 3 years of uni, and then I did an extra year kind of in the middle. So my uni took me 4 years, but I had 1 year out in industry. And then I later joined as I later did my master's actually part-time, just for my own continued learning, not, I started doing it in the pandemic and I decided I wanted to do a master's to build up some more skills. Um, what age can you join from? So to join an apprenticeship at Virgin, I think you have to be 16. That's the same for kind of most organizations. To be a graduate, typically you need to have a degree, so you wouldn't be younger than 21. But there are direct entry jobs as well, so it's worth exploring those. Do all major airlines do the recruitment plan? So most major airlines offer engineering apprentices and engineering graduate schemes. So kind of if you're thinking about it, look out for graduate schemes and actually apprentices between September and December, but some offer them at different times. Is it important to do subjects like maths? We like to do subjects like maths with lower grades or unrelated subjects to aviation but get higher grades? Really good question. And it is like a mixture of both. So I think you need to look at what your engineering degree requires. So if it needs maths, then you need to do maths. But also what I made a mistake of was just doing all ones that sounded like they were related. But actually, I should have done some ones that I enjoyed, like graphics. I should have done some ones that I was really good at because I would have got way better grades if I did. But I know like I needed the maths and physics. All I needed for my course was the maths and physics. So I should have just chosen that. But have a look at whatever course you want to study and kind of work from there. Is engineering part of architecture? As in like software architecture or physical architecture? So my partner, he is a structural engineer and he works a lot with architects, so that's a different kind of route. Yeah, I'm not quite 100% sure on the question, Connor, but please feel free to retype and let me know, and I'll try and answer if I can. Where would you think has the best work experience chances and opportunity for hands-on engineering? Really good question. And just reach out to whatever you can find. Like some have like look at all the major airlines, think out the box as well. Like a lot of people will be thinking, okay, these major airlines offer it, but how else can you what alternatives are there? Like, is there a like a local airfield to you, and do they take people on, and will they give you hands-on experience? Maybe not necessarily just like the engineering, like airlines and stuff. Maybe there's like near you a organization which manufactures aircraft parts. Maybe that could be a hands-on opportunity. And then also look out for virtual work experience opportunities as well, because that's almost like a way easier way to get work experience, and you can do it on your own time, and it still counts. I'm currently on an apprenticeship with Gulfstream Aerospace. Do you recommend getting an A license? Is it worth it, or just going straight into your B license? Really good question, Owen. It depends what is offered. So an A license isn't required necessarily to get a B license. You don't have to go through that step. It really depends. Some organizations will recognize the A license and you'll start be able to use all those responsibilities. Some will allow you to go just straight to your B. So it kind of just depends what you want. Worth speaking to your apprenticeship. They might have a set plan for you already. But yeah, no, it's a good distinguishment that actually you don't need to get your A to be able to get your B. I've had that one before. That the best parts of the jobs and careers goals, so working as a team, as I mentioned before, is amazing. When can I start applying for apprenticeships? So typically you've got to be age 16. But like I said, have a look. Typically apprenticeships open from September. Some run later into the year, so check all time, but you typically have to be 16. In upper sixth for year 13 if you want a degree apprenticeship. So degree apprenticeships are also an option. Less organizations offer them, but it doesn't mean it's not an amazing way and place to look. Let's see, okay, there's some chat happening. Why do most people want to be a pilot or engineering in the RAF? Are they most impactful? I'm not sure. Maybe I think there's just different routes that people choose. I'm not quite sure if that is the thing. Maybe as well, like as someone in civil aviation, I see a lot of people kind of in airlines. But yeah, good question. Like design buildings on design buildings on computers. Okay. Like design buildings on computers. So I'm just coming back to your question, Colden, about architectural design and stuff and structural engineering. So a lot of engineers will use computers to help them. Some will have to draw drawings. That could be aircraft parts, but that could be buildings also. Would you recommend to do this or other engineering courses? Isaac, is that related to like aerospace or like I really liked aerospace. I knew I wanted to do that, but not everyone is keen on what kind of engineering they want to do. So they do mechanical or general and then specialize later. So it's really if you want to what you want to do and how that kind of fits into your wider goals. Do I still fly in my spare time? Not that much anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, like it takes a lot to maintain your pilot's license, as you can imagine. Yeah, and I don't get don't get the time as much as I did. I did a little bit of flying again after COVID, and last year I went gliding again for the first time, and it was amazing. Uh, in the 2030s, do you think drones are going to be much more crucial in aviation? I don't know. It's an exciting one, to be honest. Like, there's so much work going into like eVTOLs and drones and how that will fit in. Yeah, why not? Like, there's just the future of aerospace and aviation is really interesting. And what impact do you think AI will have to your future in your role? Another good question, Ruben. I always look at kind of aviation and actually on aircraft, the way in civil aviation works, we have to have like a lot of time before we adopt technologies because it needs to be really proven to be safe. So it will take a little bit of time before it goes into your aircraft. But there's so much exciting work to be done to like improve maintenance, like help predict like the aircraft maintenance side. So there's a lot of help that AI tools can do to our like behind the scenes work, but it's a really long time before it will actually be on aircraft, in my opinion. For avionics. Okay, cool. Yes. So for me, yeah, aerospace worked quite well for avionics. There are some avionics specific degrees. Electronics could also be useful. But that's probably more if you're actually designing the avionics as opposed to like me, where I was maintaining the avionics. So yeah, I'd say if you wanted to work in my kind of role in a airline, which is like a step down. So, when I was showing that timeline, as an engineer, I'm kind of like, step down the side. So yeah, so for me, aerospace was fine, aviation engineering would be fine. A lot of people go into my roles after doing an apprenticeships and becoming a licensed B2 avionics engineer and then go into it. But if you want to design components, aerospace or electronics could really like be specific to that. Um, Favorite aircraft to work on? I mean, I'm biased, but that's because I used to work on the 350 and I really like working on that aircraft. Uni of South Wales has a great aircraft engineering maintenance degree course, which lets you get hands on aircraft. Amazing. Are there any university courses that offer A/B licenses as part of the course, or do you have to get them outside of uni? No, there are. I know Kingston has one, and someone just mentioned the Uni of South Wales. Okay. Just seeing if I've missed anything. Do you think you'll stay in this career or maybe change? I really love aviation, so I think I will stay in aviation. Like I really love aviation. Like I just love everything, like how exciting it is, how every day is different. Yeah, so I find it really interesting. So I can't see myself working outside of aviation. Each job that I do, I learn more and more. I learn about different parts of the aircraft, different parts of the operation. So I probably will keep learning and growing my knowledge about different types of aviation. But yeah, I think I will definitely stay in aviation. So, Teresa, I know we're almost getting to time. I don't know if there was any one last question that you wanted to share.
And if there's any cadet who wants to have one last question, I don't know if there is any more. I think they're just generalised, aren't they, of what one cadet said, what is the worst aircraft to work on? That's probably a
I
good
don't.
question.
That is a good question. And to be honest, because I've only mostly worked on the A350, that's kind of my one that I really like. I don't know, every aircraft's different as well, and it's actually every aircraft type is really different. A lot of people don't realize as pilots, if you want to change like a type course, you have to go kind of through a lot of training. If you're a licensed engineer, you have to go through similarly a lot of kind of training as well to change types. And as a back office engineer as well, I need to kind of like change. Yeah, I need to like spend a lot of time specializing on one aircraft, and then later would move on to a different one.
Excellent. Just want to thank you for your time, and
No,
I'm
no
sure
worries.
lots of the cadets have got loads from it, and it was a really interesting to talk about the whole, swapping careers, and that's very common for lots of people. They start doing one thing and then move into something else. And I think actually for students and cadets generally to understand that it's not always a clear path somewhere encourages you to keep going. If anyone's got any queries about apprenticeships at any point, they're obviously more than welcome to the careers team within RAFAC. And obviously, apprenticeships are a great route from somebody who's ahead of a careers. But generally, just thanks for your time. It was really useful.
No, no problem. No problem at all.
And I
Thank
will
you
let
so much
you,
for having me.
no problem at all. Absolutely. We might call you again at some point to be a speaker if you don't mind.
No, no problem. No problem.
So we've had at least 50 individuals logged on, and some of them are squadrons. So
Oh,
obviously
cool.
they've used them on their squadron nights as well. So it's been great to get you're talking and obviously explain to people what your career is about and what's going on. And lots of comments here saying it's been really interesting. But thanks for your time.
No, no problem. Thank you so much. Take care.
No problem. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.